So now we've gone through the first two phases. Phase one was about laying the foundation, learning about the organization, identifying our early adopters and champions. The second phase was show and tell. We wanted to show the organization that we can create successes using the process that we're trying to implement. And so now we move to the third phase. And the third phase is now time for us to start reaching beyond our champions to leaders we might call the early majority. And so that's the first thing that you need to do in this final phase is identify your early majority. For any company-wide initiative to become successful, you have to move beyond early adopters. And there was once a feeling amongst economists that the best way to create almost like an irresistible momentum for change is to actually get to 50% of people who are convinced about the initiative that you're trying to put in place. But research by social scientist Damon Santola actually shows that you don't need to get to 50%. Just by getting to 25% of people who are actually bought in and really support your initiative, that can start to create the momentum that can sometimes make the changes you're trying to put in place inevitable. But to get to 25%, you have to think beyond your early adopters, right? Because again, remember, early adopters and innovators usually constitute about 16% of the population. And while your early adopters move a little bit fast, your early majority, they need more social proof. But you've got that, right? You've got the early wins and you've got the story that you can tell to start sort of bringing them along. So what you need to do now is start thinking about who your early majority might be. You can start to map out your stakeholders again. Think about the folks that were enthusiastic about your successes as you were out there telling your story. Think about the folks that are already starting to get in touch and asking how they can participate, right? Make a list of those folks because those folks become your early majority, the kinds of leaders you can work with to expand your movement beyond this early group of early adopters and champions. And then the second part of this is to then expand your engagement into those early majority leaders, right? So just like you did during the discovery phase, go back out there, start talking to these early majority leaders, present your initiative, really learn from them the barriers they think they might face if they want to engage with you, and start thinking about how you can maybe lower those barriers to get them to engage. Research on the theory of planned behavior shows that sometimes people want to engage in a behavior, they intend to engage in a behavior, but then perceived behavioral control might constrain their ability to actually engage in that behavior. So as you talk to your early majority, try and learn from them, the barriers they might be facing, and then try and see how you might help them lower those barriers. But you yourself must also be clear about what kind of help you need from them. How do you expect them to contribute? This allows you to make clear asks. And as you face early majority leaders that might want to contribute, but maybe might be a little hesitant, maybe you want to make small asks. Don't start by making huge asks. Maybe ask for something small, a small engagement, a small investment in resources, a small experiment that you can run together. This foot in the door technique is really great because it sort of lowers the barrier for leaders to engage. Because when you're asking for something big, leaders start thinking about whether or not they want to sort of stake their reputation on your initiative. But if you're asking for something small, then it's easier for leaders to sort of feel that they can jump in. So ask for something small, get your early majority leaders engaged, because that's then the way to start growing the initiative that you're working on. And then the last step of this final phase is to start creating your actionable roadmap. You've engaged with early adopters, you've got champions, you've started having conversations with your early majority, you know what barriers they face, you know how they think they can help, and now you can start planning about how you're going to scale your initiative, right? What is the first thing you're going to do? What is the second thing you're going to do? What is the next thing you're going to do? And this is really important for you to really start thinking about how you can create and sustain that momentum. And as you move forward, always remember that the goal is to get to that 25%. You want to get to that tipping point. That tipping point is just to push your initiative so that it becomes much more sustainable within the organization. And this focus and this discipline really, really matters. I've worked with leaders who are driving new initiatives and they just engage in random activity. They talk to different people all the time and they're not really thinking about how they're going to create the momentum. The best way to measure the momentum that you're driving in your organization is to think about, do you have innovators and early adopters that you're working with that become champions of your initiative, right? And those will become like 16% of the people within your organization. And you need to find those early adopters and champions, because if you don't have early adopters and champions, it's impossible for you to become successful because you cannot create the right momentum to drive an initiative. And then beyond your early adopters and champions, you can really measure whether you're finding the early majority. Are you getting to that 25% of people that buy in and support your initiative? Because again, if you can't get to that 25% of people that buy in and support your initiative, then you haven't created the right momentum. So that's the focus. The focus is on creating momentum. The focus is not on forcing people or pushing people or talking a lot. You have to be really measuring whether or not you're creating the right momentum and the right buy-in within your organization. Because remember that people who buy into what you're doing are people who positively evaluate the work that you're working on, right? That's the first thing. And then the second thing is they're willing to actively participate and contribute to your success. So finding those folks is really important to create that overall success and momentum for the initiative that you're working on. So here are a few thoughts to remember going forward. Start by listening. Listen to people's concerns and develop a deep understanding of what's happening in your organization. Always remember that momentum beats good ideas, right? You can have great ideas, but if you don't have momentum, it really doesn't matter. You cannot navigate your way towards success. This is why getting champions is critical. If you cannot get champions that are emotionally committed to helping you succeed, it'll be impossible for you to create the momentum that you need. Small wins drive momentum. That's the fourth thing that you need to remember. Getting small wins will help you drive momentum. So focus on getting small wins first before you start trying to look for something big to do. The fifth thing you need to remember is that narrative beats data. So as you go out there and tell your story, focus not on facts and numbers and try and think about how you can tell a narrative where people can recognize themselves in the story. And then the final thing to remember is that you need to get to the tipping point. Get to that tipping point. Get to that 25%, because then that momentum can make the changes you're trying to drive inevitable. I wish you the best of innovation luck. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe below, and also share this video with anyone you know who might be working on an innovation or transformation initiative that they're trying to create momentum for within their organization.